morning. Welcome to Occupational Therapy with Kim and Jen. I am Kim.
I am Jen.
And we're your favorite occupational therapists. And we are back today to talk to you actually about one of our favorite topics, which is how to engage the nonverbal child. I work primarily with 0 to 3-year-olds, so I get a lot of nonverbal children. And a lot of them are supposed to be nonverbal because prior to the age of 18 months, many of them don't say many words and we don't expect them to. But communication is going to consist of nonverbal ways to get your attention, whether that's eye contact, facial expressions, gestures, using your hands. Some kids even learn signs like the more sign, eat sign. And then language consists of words that they use and symbols when they start to write. We don't expect a lot of language use until about 18 months. So if your child isn't saying words at 12 or 13 months, we're not concerned. But what's very important for you to know is that all development happens sort of on a stair-step fashion. So in order for that 18-month-old to start using words, there has to be some things that occur before that happens. And that is the use of nonverbal communication. So very early on, prior to the age of 1, they understand, or they start to understand, or we hope that they understand, if they're wet and they cry, you come, you pick them up, you change their diaper. If they're hungry, they cry, you come and you give them a bottle. They learn the patterns of communication or the dance of communication. They communicate in some way, you respond. And we're going to see a lot of that happening prior to 18 months. As they get a little bit older, towards maybe 9 months, 10 months, 11 months, you do a gesture, they imitate. You wave, they wave. You point. About 11 months, they're going to follow that point with their eyes. And then after 12 months, they're going to start to point to communicate something with you. They're hungry, they want their bottle, they point. They want to take you to a toy, they grab you by the hand. They often pair those gestures with eye contact. If your child isn't doing those things and you're not noticing them communicating with you in a nonverbal way, that is something to be concerned about. And you can have that addressed through your early intervention program in your state. All you have to do is Google early intervention, put your state's name, call that number or send that email, and they will call you up to have your child screened. Because if they're not doing robust nonverbal communication prior to the age of 18 months, they're not going to start with the use of words at 18 months. Jen, how do you want to add to that? This is such an important topic.
Yeah, no, I think you summed it up great, actually. I think you did a great job.
Yeah, oftentimes early signs of autism are kids that are not doing nonverbal communication. They should be very excited about showing you a toy and smiling and trying to get your attention, trying to grab your face. And if they're not, that's just really important to stay on top of that. So other than calling your early intervention program, letting your pediatrician know, you can do some really fun activities to try and get their attention and get them to engage with you more. Find those things that give them joy. A lot of kids like to be bounced on your laps and drop backwards. See if that makes them start looking at you and laughing. Give a little pause, see if there's some way that they're asking you to do it again. Those very, very subtle forms of doing it again. Maybe they're just throwing their head back. When they do that, you're going to want to let them know that you understood their communication and say, oh, you want more. You do it again. It gives them joy. They look at you, they wait. Maybe they show some subtle form again. They throw their head back. You say, oh, you want more. So you help them with that dance of communication. What other ideas do you have on helping them with that, Jen?
So communication is just what Kim is saying is reciprocity. So a lot of times our kids aren't giving us those cues, and sometimes they're in their own little bubble. And let's say we find something that they do enjoy, like maybe they like looking at books, or maybe they like lining up cars, or maybe they like stacking things in a certain way. They're happy when they're in their own little space, but we want to get in their space so that we can communicate with them, so that they understand that we understand. Oh, you like to line up your cars. Well, what happens if my car does this? Or what happens if I get another color? So we want to show them that we understand where they're at and take them to the next level of communication.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, please do.
And this might have been the next thing that you were going to say. And validate any communication they give you, even if you see it negative. One of the things Jen and I were talking about is that same child may turn their back. Oh, you don't want me here. Validate what they say, because they are communicating with you in a subtle way. You want to let them know that you picked up on that, so that we can get that dance of communication. It's back and forth. Even if you perceive what they did is they shut you down. Oh, you don't want me to play.
Yeah. And there are simple steps to this. So let's use the cars as an example. They're lining up their cars, in their own little space, and you go over there to be with them, and they turn their body. So you say to them, "Oh, I see you don't want me to play with you. I'll play with my cars over here." So you're going to play with him, maybe do some imitation of what he's doing. And when we notice that, then maybe we can blend our two toys together. So if he's lining up his cars, maybe you could put your car next. If he pushes it away or she pushes it away, say, "Oh, you don't want the red car there? That's okay. We'll do it later." So the first one is just kind of breaking that bubble. And imitation, which is what Kim is saying, when they look at your face and they smile and you smile, or you wave and they wave, that imitation piece is huge for communication. And that's how they learn that turn taking, that you smile, I smile thing. So if you're playing beside them, that is the first step. The next step is maybe trading, that you put your car there and they don't want it there, or that they see that you're playing and they want your car. You're like, "Oh, you want my car? Great, you can have my car. Here, I'll take yours, you take mine." So trading is kind of the next step. And then the next step after that, the even higher level, is the turn taking, that I'm playing with my car. "Oh, you want a turn? Here." And you actually do a turn taking thing. But you got to start low, and you got to start with some form of itsy bitsy, "I understand what you're saying to me. You don't want me in your space. I'll play over here." So that is huge.
It is huge. And we briefly touched upon the fact with those children who are not doing nonverbal communication yet, you're only going to catch them. And I like to call that hook them. You're only going to hook them into your world and your dance of communication if you engage them with something that you've watched them find joy with. If they like music, put music on and dance. Do a really silly, crazy dance so that they're going to look up at you and smile. Row, row, row your boat. They're sitting in front of you. You've got to hold their hands. You're going back and forth. A lot of times our kids love movement. Hopefully they're looking at you. Ring around the rosy, same kind of thing. A lot of kids like to wrestle. A lot of kids like to be tickled. Find those things that find them joy, because you won't getting them engaged with you if you don't. If they're sitting there playing with the cars and you bring over a ball, if they show no interest in it, forget the ball. You've got to stay on what they really find joy with.
Abandoned. So as Kim said, so I brought a couple of prompts here. My first one is bubbles. Bubbles are one of the most engaging things for kids. They are fascinating, that they're flying in the air and then they're gone, and they touch them and they can see them, but then they pop, and they're fascinating. So you can use the bubbles by, you blow the bubbles, they pop them, you have the lid back on, and they're like looking around for the bubbles. Where are they? Give them some time, wait them out, see if they'll come closer to you, that, "Oh, you want more bubbles." Or just pretend like the lid is stuck, so that then they have to communicate again, and by touching the bubbles or looking for them, some way of communicating. That was my one prop. My other prop was a puppet. I happen to have this one here, and there are millions of them. And this one is fun because it squeaks. I don't know if you could hear that. But puppets are fun because you can use different voices and hello, and be super silly. And they are engaging because they flap around and they move, and this one squeaks. So use props to help get their attention. And then the other one I brought, and Kim was talking about music, was this little music book. And what I like about this one are the pictures kind of correspond with the songs. And the next one won't come on until the one is finished. So you're working on some attention span. But the other thing I like about this is that there's choices. Granted, this has a lot of choices. I usually start with 2 choices. And it can be on daily activities. Do you want the red shirt or the blue shirt? Do you want the green shoes or the purple shoes? Do you want the pink toothbrush or the blue toothbrush? On daily activities, do you want the red spoon or the green spoon? Do you want yogurt or do you want pudding? Like literally offering choices all day long so that there is some eye gaze and there is some, even if they don't reach for it, but they look at it. Oh, I saw you look for that. Great, let's have that today. And if they chose wrongly, great. It's another opportunity for them to turn their head away or, oh, you made a bad choice. You don't want pudding. And sometimes when they are, let's say they go to the refrigerator because they're hungry. I have some kids that aren't communicating that they're hungry, but they'll literally stand in front of the refrigerator. So I have parents pull out ketchup. Oh, you want some ketchup? So that it's another opportunity for them to say, no, I don't want ketchup. I want milk, or I want juice, or whatever it is. So constantly kind of sabotaging and playing dumb, like, oh, I had no idea you don't drink ketchup. To get those kids hooked in, because we need to kind of do lots of dances with them. It's not so easy.
Yeah, I like, well, I'm thinking about that, and I think about my parents who will say to me, I try everything, and my child will not look at me or communicate. And I feel for you. I know it's very difficult. And even in therapy, I have kids where I feel like I try everything, and I don't get them looking at me and engaging with me in any kind of non-verbal way. In those situations, I often use music, or not music, movement, whether it's putting them on a swing, and I'm going to swing them maybe 10 times and stop. And then I'm going to look at them and see if there's anything that they'll do to indicate they want more. Oftentimes they start moving their body. Yes, they are communicating with me. And I say, oh, you want more swing? Be very enthusiastic so that they really see your facial expressions. They see your gestures. Start swinging them again. You swing them 10 times. You stop. You say stop. So they start to match the word with the action. Wait for it. Wait for that nonverbal communication. Usually it comes in some very subtle way, just a little bit of a movement or a smile. Oh, you want more swing? You swing them some more. I do that on the swing. I might put them at the top of the slide. I put my arm there so they can't go down. They may get mad. Guess what? Getting angry is a form of communication if they're looking at you and getting angry. Oh, you want to go more. You put your arm up, you let that child go down. I love to use therapy balls, big Pilates balls. Kids like to bounce on those balls. I sit them on those balls. They're in front of me. Maybe I'm laughing, I'm singing, trying to get them to look at me. I stop again. And you know what they do when they want to do some more? They start bouncing. Well, they just communicated with me. And so I'm going to say, oh, you want more bounce? And we start bouncing some more. So it can be hard to find those activities that kind of hook them, where you get them finding joy. They're looking at you and they subtly communicate, but that's what you want to find. And then build on that dance of communication with them.
Yeah. So two things that Kim said in there I think are really important. That one is waiting. That whole wait them out. It feels like years are going by and you are just waiting for them to communicate with you, and being quiet and waiting is super difficult, but it's super important. And then the other piece of that is I like to name my games. So like if we're sitting on the ball and we're bouncing, we call it bounce. Bounce, 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 bounce. So we use simple words, repetitive words, and name the game. So when you have the ball out versus the, sometimes I play blanket games. I'll have the blanket game and we play swing. We do blanket swings a lot. They'll go to the ball and I'll say, oh, you want bounce, 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 so that they can hopefully get to the point where we can have them label bounce versus swing, or ball versus blanket, whatever you call it, bubbles, like super simple one words, so that when they start getting some form of language or communication with sounds, we can identify what it is they're saying to us. Same with finger plays. We do lots of music with Wheels on the Bus and Itsy Bitsy. So this might be the sign for Wheels on the Bus. And I will have kids that will bring their arms up and I'll be like, you want Wheels on the Bus? Let's do it. And just to hook them in, like Kim said, you need to be super animated and over the top, because they're not noticing the plain Jane. That's what the whole puppet thing is about as well.
Right. And with some of these kids, it can get a little frustrating because it might take time before you start to notice some of those subtle forms of communication. Maybe they were even delayed in the early skills of looking at you and watching you. So if they were delayed in looking at you, they are delayed in picking up on the nonverbals that you use. So once they finally start engaging with you, which is what all of these action activities do, then it's going to take them a minute to figure out how to use some form of nonverbals to get what they want, because this is new to them. So be patient. You may be trying these new skills. It could take a few weeks for them to finally go when they want something more. Or maybe they do a subtle sign, or they do rock on the ball. So be patient. It will come. Refrain from trying to ask them. Don't ask them to say more, sign more, because they would if they could. We want this to come naturally as they're watching you and you're enthusiastic and you keep engaging with them.
Good point.
Anything else, Jen?
I don't think so. Hopefully this is helpful to you and you can start getting some of that reciprocal play going.
If you have any comments, please add them at the bottom, and we'd love it if you liked and subscribed. Thank you.